Welcome everybody. My name is Coco. This is the Ernie Racing YouTube channel. Today we're looking at the Bank of Canada General Manager, Bank of Canada. Let's see what he has to say about Trudeau inflation.
Limited time. If you could just answer the question, if the carbon tax were eliminated, would that make your job easier in terms of reducing?
Inflation would be lower for 1 year, but it would not be sustainably lower, so I don't believe it would have a big impact.
Okay.
There you have it. If Trudeau's carbon tax was removed, guys, we would have a difference of going on with the inflation rate. In fact, the carbon tax alone contributes this year 0.7 points or 0.75 percentage points to inflation. So if you remove the carbon tax, we would be all better off. Let's listen to it, the whole thing.
Question: if inflation today was 2.1, 2.2 instead of 2.8, 2.9, would that make your job easier in terms of a decision to reduce the policy rate?
If we thought it was going to be sustained at that level, absolutely yes.
Yeah. Okay, and just earlier in this meeting, you testified that the incremental increase in the carbon tax from $65 to $80 represented 0.1% of inflation, and that if it hadn't happened, inflation would be 2.8. Correct?
Correct.
And when you were here in October, you testified that the overall effect of the carbon tax at $65 a ton was 0.6% of inflation. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the combined effect, to be absolutely clear, today is that at $80 a ton, the carbon tax contributes roughly 0.75% to inflation, correct?
That's not quite accurate. It's to the rate. What matters for inflation is the increase in the carbon tax. So that's the 0.1 to 0.15. Yet you are correct that if the carbon tax was eliminated, yes, there would be a drop in the price level of about 0.7. So for 1 year, inflation would be 0.7 percentage points lower.
On that talking point about 1 year, I just want to correct that as well. It's 1 year in perpetuity. You can only eliminate the carbon tax once.
Right.
So my question to you is fairly simple. If the carbon tax were repealed, which is what Conservatives will do when we are in office, and it were repealed in April, would that have been helpful in your decision to reduce interest rates and as a result, help millions of mortgage holders in Canada reduce their payments?
Well, as I said before, if as you just said, if you eliminate the carbon tax, you can only do that once. So it'll drop inflation for 1 year by our estimate about 0.7. A year later, inflation will go back up 0.7 because the once-off decline in the price level will fall out of the rate of change calculation. So in terms of monetary policy, I mean, we've had tax changes like this in the past. I mentioned the cut in cigarette taxes in 1994. Changes in GST have a similar 1 year effect. Those are things we tend to look through. In fact, one of the measures of core we typically follow is something called CPI ex food, energy, and taxes for exactly that reason, because we want to see what we're focused on is the underlying trend in inflation. I mean, this conversation is a little hypothetical,
but limited time. If you could just answer the question, if the carbon tax were eliminated, would that make your job easier in terms of reducing?
Inflation would be lower for 1 year, but it would not be sustainably lower, so I don't believe it would have a big impact.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you for that reporting there, Coco. There you have it, everybody. Inflation would be down 0.7 of a percent. Like, subscribe, and share. What do you think, guys? What do you think about the Bank of Canada manager here, general appointed manager, and what he's saying? Over and out.